Derek Sheridan from Rust Belt Basketball Coaches Network. One of my favorite ways to watch high school basketball in the summer months up here in Northwest Ohio is to go over to the University of Findlay's team camp. They run multiple sessions. It's a great camp, very organized, and they have a plethora of different types of teams from all over the Rust Belt. And they have a really neat system where they really don't have flights, meaning big school versus big school or small school versus small school. They kind of just let the teams play, which I have an affinity for because it takes me back to my childhood playing in the great state of Indiana where there was no class basketball. So one of the games I had circled was a small school, one of the smallest schools in the state of Ohio, who seems to win a state championship at the Division IV level at least once a decade, if maybe not even a little bit more, versus a big school from the state of Indiana, which has been a powerhouse, even to a folklorish point for darn near 100 years, if maybe not even a little bit more. But I want to refer to these two schools as big school versus small school because I haven't gotten permission to talk about their teams from their head coaches. So we'll just stick with small school versus big school. And having coached at both at very small schools and big schools, these games have a tendency to get really heated and they're very competitive. The small schools, by and large, have a disdain for the big schools, and they want to come out and prove that they belong on the floor. And then the big schools don't want to get beat by a smaller school. So I really enjoy these games. These games get really competitive, and the players bang, and the coaches really get after it. And it's a great avenue for basketball enthusiasts, or I should say high school basketball enthusiasts, to get their fix during the summer months. So this game took place on the last day of the first session, and it didn't disappoint. It was an outstanding game. So the big school came out and took an early lead, got up by 10, 12 points, and they did so by utilizing their full court man-to-man run and jump. Now, the small school's biggest player might be 6'4", maybe, but all five of the kids at the small school are good shooters that can all handle the basketball, very fundamental. It's obvious that they're extremely well coached. The bigger school featured very fundamental players who are a lot bigger, a lot faster. I'm not going to say they were more physically strong because I don't believe they were, but they were bigger and a lot longer, a lot more rangy. So it was interesting to see this head coach who's had so much success in the great state of Ohio, what he did to combat this full court run and jump press. And again, this is summer basketball, so I get it. Nothing's really crisp. Now, the execution in this game was outstanding no matter what time of the year it was. But I really like the fact I really enjoyed watching the different ways the head coach at the smaller school combated the full court run and jump. And I also really, really enjoyed watching his temperament. You know, you get to see a lot of different types of coaches at these tournaments. And some coaches scream and bark and yell at their kids nonstop. And if things don't go their way, they blame everything on the kids, and which really is a big turnoff. But anyway, this coach and his staff just kind of sat there and kept talking and huddling around each other and used their timeouts wisely. But they went to this 1-4 low. Once they got the ball inbounded, the three man who inbounded the ball started off hanging out here. And the one man would advance the ball, what we called an arco, advance. And then here comes the jump from X3. Retreat, crossover, and two things would happen here. As one is taking the ball towards, in theory, the open man three, looking to hit him prior to crossing the timeline, knowing the X5 is going to jump up what we used to call in our run and jump press, jump up the chain he would come up to the elbow here, or open area, I should say, not just a demographic spot, but they would find a way to get the ball to the open man, the open flasher. And in this scenario, the four man put his heels on the baseline, and the five would sigma pivot, rip. Three's going to the corner, one fill here, and he's looking if X4 would help. He would dump the ball here to four flashing, who would shot fake and find a way to get to the foul line, or five would finish here after a shot fake, or he would burn the ball across to the weak side corner, and the two man would hit four as he resealed, drive the thing baseline, and utilize, I think the modern lingo for it's hammer or baseline drift. We just simply called it fisting up. And they would attack the full court man-to-man press that way. And once they got the game down to maybe a 6-point margin, the other team backed off of their full court man-to-man press. And this put the small school team in a scenario to utilize a neat little set here, or system, maybe is a better way to say it, I'd like to show you, where the players were strictly in charge of finding matchups and attacking the block. Now, again, these are smaller kids. Now, they're strong. They're strong kids who are extremely well versed in the fundamentals of the game of basketball, but they're attacking the blocks, the elbows, the nail hole, and executing a lot of screen the screener action, which really benefited them when the large school started to switch their cuts or screens, whichever you prefer. So they had a multitude of different entries they would utilize. And to save some time here, I'll just show you the basic formation of what they would get into after they would after they would run an entry to get the ball. What we used to call get the ball in business, or get the ball to the wing. But this would be their basic formation after the entry had been ran and they got the ball to the wing. Now, while all this is happening, while they were running the entry, no matter if they were in a stack formation, a 1-4 high formation, or whatever, the five players for the smaller school had an unbelievable amount of offensive chatter taking place. And they're talking about who they want to get on the block for a mismatch. I love the fact that they were talking to each other about getting the opposition, the point guard from the big school on the block to isolate him and get him in foul trouble. The other player they went right after immediately was the other team's best shooter, who was guarding usually 2 or 3. So once the ball went to the wing, whoever occupied, and forget about numbers here, or positions, I should say, they would just fill this formation, a 4 out, 1 in, and it didn't matter who was here, because again, at this smaller school, every player can pass, shoot, and dribble. So once the ball went to the wing, whoever occupied either block shot up to the nail hole and executed a back screen. And from this back screen here, they're obviously looking for the cutter. And simultaneously, they had their screen the screener action. And on this screen the screener action, they're looking for A, hitting here on the slip, which would take place more here. And he would attack, shot fake, kick out, and they would find a way to score, get a quality shot, or get to the foul line, which was the thing they did the best, was get to the foul line and make free throws. The other scenario was hitting here, and this is an automatic. They're going to take the 3-point shot. And 3 and 4 would crash, and 1 would sprint back with 2. So if 1 didn't get it and the ball went to 5, and if they switched out, 5 is going to float here, find an open spot. 5's looking for him. And you have the same scenario. If that's not there, 1 would do one of two things. 1 would cut and fill, and they would make guard to guard pass, or 1 would screen away for 4, who would look to backdoor. If he did backdoor, we got 1 filling. If 4 filled, maybe 4 curls it, but they're going to get this ball guard to guard somehow. So let's say 1 pops it and the ball's burnt here, guard to guard. Now the 4-man cuts into his man, works hard to get open, and the ball gets here to the wing. And I'll show you some things they did when they couldn't get the ball to the wing here. Because again, these people guarding the players from the smaller schools all have superior wingspans and are way out in the passing lanes. They're not playing pack line. They are out in the passing lane with their back to the ball and their outside hands past the level of the ball line. So the ball would go to 4. Here's the player on the block. There's your action, getting to the basket. Here's your screen the screener. And you would have this repetitive action. And let's say this time the 1-man screens away. 2 curls it, 1 pops, the ball's flung guard to guard. Here comes 2. And that's not to say 2 would not screen for 5 and put 5 out here. And again, when I say these things, these players are talking about who they want to get isolated on the block. The ball gets to the wing. Here's your cut, burn cut, screen the screener. And this stuff was so neat to see how they talked to each other and got who they wanted, not only here, but here for the 3-point shot. A lot of times when the small school's 5 was involved in the screener action, they were able to, so let's say 2 hit 3, there's your cut, here's your screen the screener. Now 5 is about 6'3", 6'4", big, strong kid who can play. The other players on the team had a cadence they would yell, and they would flatten out in this scenario. And 5 now was in a 1-4 low, which people who follow my channel know that I'm a huge advocate of 1-4 low, primarily when you're fighting back or when you have the lead and you're playing for layups and free throws. And it was just a standard 1-4 low. Another aspect that this smaller school ran that I really appreciated was the ball would go here. Here comes your screen, your burn cut, your back screen. And on that screen, the screener, on the switch, this player would open up. 5 or 4 here would ride his man up and get his inside where his right hand rooted to this corner of the rim and backboard, and they would go high-low. The counter to this was he would burn the ball across the floor here to 2. Now 4 has his man sealed. Now he would ride him up the lane line, get a foot out of bounds, and they would hit him here on the base with a baseline bounce pass. And they were pounding the ball on the blocks or looking for this 3-point shot or looking for a drive. They were also outstanding, as I said earlier, at driving the ball baseline. But maybe this will give you an idea of some things you can do with your team in this type of offensive alignment to put your kids in position to attack mismatches and put your kids in positions to work on their ability to talk to each other and find ways to get the ball to the right people versus the right opposition. The small team ended up coming back and hitting a layup at the buzzer, winning, and it was like they just won a state championship. And it was really fun to watch 2 great coaches, and it was interesting to see how both teams players were in such great physical condition for just being the second week of June. And it was also fascinating to watch the chess match between the two coaches in summer basketball. The last thing I'll leave you with is this: I really enjoyed watching both sets of staffs, coaching staffs. The coaches, instead of screaming at their players and every time something went wrong, making it about the mistakes the kids made, um, just kind of huddled with their staffs and kept making great adjustments, used their timeouts wisely, and focused on getting the win versus screaming and stomping their feet or belly aching at their players the whole game. So it was really a great summer basketball game. If you have any questions about this or anything else, don't hesitate to shoot an email to us at Derek, DEREK, at myrustbeltbasketball.com, and I'll get right back with you. But if you like this video, please give us a like or a thumbs up, leave us a comment. All of those things help us grow our small coaches network. So thanks for your consideration on that, and I hope the rest of your summer's outstanding.